chapters, all the other chapters is an application of the principles that are introduced in chapter 1. As when the fall occurred, God did not create some new principle. He simply took the creation principles that he already had and applied them to the new situation. Because of his absolute obedience, he's going to say, I guess my principle of creation was not perfect. It did not anticipate this situation. Is not able to handle this situation. No, God's principle of creation is perfect, and so it can handle, and it is handling any situation that comes up. Okay. Over time, yes, the time we're talking about is hundreds of thousands of years, but over time. Yeah. So we're talking about dual purposes, and there's a public purpose and a private purpose. And there is a group of people who don't understand public. Public means that anything that is offered to God and for the purpose of the whole. And so, these people took money from Father, but they say, oh no, this wasn't public money, because they think that public money means money that belongs to the government or comes from the government or something like that. That's the definition of, or the idea of concept of public in the outside secular world, right? But in our world, we have what's called public money. When we make offerings to the church, those offerings, the money in those offerings becomes public money, and it has to be used for the public purpose. Public purpose meaning the purpose of the whole, or the purpose of God. But we also have private money, right? We only offer a tenth. That means that 9/10 we keep ourselves. And we can make we do make other offerings, of course, but then the 9/10 then is money that we can use as we like, and that's the private money that is for individual purpose. But the whole universe though is a organic body that is connected in the private and in every way. So the energy creates particles, and particles for atoms, and atoms create molecules, molecules create plants and animals, and humans eat the plants and animals, and then the humans live for the sake of God. So the energy for the sake of the particles, particles for the sake of the atoms, atoms for the sake of the molecules, molecules for the sake of the plants, plants that are eaten by animals, animals are eaten by humans, and then humans serve God. So also here, and then God then is also living for the sake of the whole, so for the sake of them. So individual lives for the sake of the family, family for the sake of the tribe, and the tribe for the sake of the group, ethnic group for the sake of the nation, and the nation for the sake of the world, and the world for the sake of the cosmos, meaning the spirit world and physical world, and then God, cosmos for the sake of God, and then God lives for the sake of the individual, and all of these together. So this is a connected and organic body. Yeah. The three great realms of Shimjong and the three great kingships, the God, with the plus and minus here being the yang and yin, and he's projecting himself into the world as a man and a woman, and they come together as husband and wife, and then there's the at Adam and Eve children. But you see here these arrows here, 3 arrows, because then as they grow this way. So the Eve, for example, the newborn Eve or the newborn child grows, and then first develops the Shimjong as a child, Shimjong as a sibling, Shimjong as a wife, and then as the parent. And so then the grandparents representing the past and their place, the place of the grandparents represents God, and the parents represent the present, and the place represents the humanity, and the children represent the future king. So these are the 3 great kingships in the family. And this will be true not only in the current 3-generation kingships, but also in the future as well. In the realm of the royal family, the humankind, all the humankind then are God's children under one God. So then I think we already know why then do we get married? Or to resemble God. This is something that is, I think, new even to traditional Christians, that we marry to resemble God. Because God has projected himself into the world as a man and as a woman, as a yang and yin, with the mind and body, song, sang, and hyung sang, inner character and external form. So those come together then and resemble God in that couple. And then to capture and occupy the true love of God, God then pours his true love into that relationship. And to complete and perfect one, to perfect oneself, then in marriage. Marriage is necessary for us to reach the completion of our character. We need a spouse to help us to reach that completion. And that's why that's why we marry, and why marriage is necessary if we are to become the person that God designed us to be. And so that's why the owner of your sexual organ is your spouse. And love is experienced and completed through one's spouse. The second reason, to perfect God and perfect love's realm of liberation. To perfect God, to complete God. That's another reason why we get married. Adam and Eve's marriage would be God's marriage, a substantial incarnation of God. And the first love, in other words, the sexual relationship immediately on the night of the marriage, after the marriage, would be God's first love, in other words, his first sexual relationship, and the point of union between God's love and human love in those sexual organs. In order to multiply, and the third reason, in order to multiply God's true love, true life, and true lineage eternally. And the purpose for creating human beings, God's body, for God to use as a body, an object of love, in order to experience substantial love, and to multiply children of God, in order to multiply children. Yeah. So for the first generation, the holy blessing is a salvation ceremony. For second and third generation, this is a ceremony here to multiply God's true love and true life and true lineage throughout the world, and to increase God's realm of victory, his realm of liberation. The principal view of marriage is that the true path of human life is the path of existing for the sake of for another, being born for the sake of others, growing for the sake of others, getting married for the sake of the other, living for the sake of the other, heading towards the world of living for others by helping each other to achieve completion. The world of living for others is the ideal world, the kingdom of heaven. Thus, the basic unit of the kingdom of heaven is the family, which is why Satan wants to destroy the family, and that he has worked so hard to do that. And we live in a society now where it's difficult. It's difficult to maintain family. Children move away because of college, because of job, this, that, and the other thing. And of course, that's after they've been through 12 years of indoctrination in public school, and then 4 years or more if they go to graduate school away from home. And so the whole society is set up so that you have to have two incomes in order to support a family, to give a decent standard of living, especially after the dollar lost so much of its value in the 1980s and onward. So it's designed to undermine the family. But even if we have to live at a lower than desired standard of living, we need to protect the family. We need to protect the family. We need to keep the family together, I think. Physically keep the family together. Short absences, of course, not a problem, I think, but fundamentally, there needs to be physical proximity. Somehow, Zoom meetings don't quite make it, do they? Yeah. You can learn through long distance. You can learn long distance. You can study long distance and have that. You can work long distance through Zoom. Yeah. A lot of people do that, long distance. But loving long distance, not so easy. The Zoom software doesn't quite cover that, does it? Because you need that physical touch, I think. Yeah. And, in the last year and a half or so, they've been trying to take away that physical touch. Yeah. So the ideal husband and wife are unchangeable. Parents are unchangeable. We cannot change our parents. And we cannot change our children. In other words, you cannot say, I don't want this child, I want another child. The next door, they got such a nice boy. I think I'll adopt him as my child. I'll give him mine. Can't really do that. But what about the couples? What about the husband and wife? Are they unchangeable? Yeah. Well, they should be unchangeable. That's why there's a question mark there on this slide. Yeah. Ideal husband and wife are unchangeable. And the completion of the true family ideal, the God in the subject position and human beings in the object partner position. And then within husband and wife, then wife is in the object partner position to the husband in the subject partner position. And then there's a reciprocal relationship between the husband and wife. And the husband then is in the object partner position to God. And of course, you saw in the four-position foundation that the wife also has a personal, direct relationship with God. But and here then, this is the wife then is rotating around the husband here. The husband in the subject position unites with God, his subject, and brings completion to his object partner, the wife. The wife in the object position unites with her husband, her subject partner, and brings completion to her subject partner, the husband. The husband and wife were born as a son and daughter. They both grow and complete themselves by attending their parents. Accordingly, the husband attends his wife as he would attend his mother, and the wife attends her husband as she would attend her father. Together they both bring completion to each other by living for each other in daily life. So this is the education that takes place in the family norms. The husband is attending his father. Attending means to helping his father, but also obeying his father and helping his father do whatever it is that he's trying to do. And then, and also he is attending his mother. And so then when he marries, then he attends his wife as he would attend his mother. So there's attendance by the husband to the wife. And there are one or two people I hope are listening right now when I say that. And the wife attends her husband as she would attend her father. Together they both bring completion to each other by living for each other in daily life. So the family, the husband and wife, the family really is a blob of true love. And no one can say, hey, you need to attend me. That doesn't really work, does it? Doesn't really work. Maybe some of us have tried it. Doesn't really work. You can listen to OSDP or you can find out the hard way, whichever you choose. But then it's living for the sake of each other all the time. And in this way, they become a true couple resembling the perfect God, eventually becoming perfected true parents. And so that's the goal for us, to become true parents. Parents who really embody the parental shimjong. And we want to do that before we go to spirit world. And the completion of the sibling ideal now, siblings. The elder brother in his subject position unites with his parents. Here we've got the parents and children. And here elder brother, subject partner, or he's actually an object partner to his parents, object partner position to his parents, but in the subject partner to the younger brother or to the younger sister or with the younger sibling, and brings completion to his object, the younger brother. So it's the responsibility of the older brother or older sibling to help the younger siblings to move towards the completion of their character. Okay? And the younger brother in the object position unites with his older brother, his subject position, and brings completion to his subject, the older brother. And it's also the responsibility then of the younger sibling to help the older sibling move toward a completion of his character. They're not perfect, right? They're not perfect. So you help each other achieve or move, or at least move towards perfection or completion. The elder and younger brothers were born as second selves of the parents. Again, we have the second selves. Accordingly, the elder brother attends his younger brother as he would attend his parents. So you see, elder brother attends his younger brother, attends. The elder brother attends the younger brother. This is a strange concept to some. Attends his younger brother as he would attend his parents. And the younger brother attends his elder brother as he would attend his parents. Together they both bring completion to each other by living for each other in daily life. In this way they become true children, resembling their true parents, eventually becoming true brothers. Yeah. So that's the kind of family that we would all like to have, right? Right. Wouldn't you? We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. If not in this lifetime, then in a future generation, but we'll get there. Do you believe that? Yes. Do you know that? Okay. I hope I heard answers from everyone. Yeah. A determination of the original value of creation and the standard for that value. So value, we say that value has to be absolute, unique, eternal, and unchanging. So how do we determine value? The value of creation and the standard of value. So we have a subject-object relationship, all right? And we have desire. The subject partner has desire. Oops, I'm not showing you my, I'm sorry. I'm not showing you my, where did it go now? There we go. My laser pointer, okay. The subject partner, our object partner, are having a reciprocal relationship. And the subject partner has a desire, okay. I want a, what is this, a travel mug. I want something where I can drink fluids while I'm driving without having an accident. That's my desire. So then I go to Walmart, and I see this thing, and it fulfills that desire. And so then I say, okay, well, this thing therefore has value for me, as long as it doesn't leak. If it leaks, then it's a different situation. Trash. Oops. I'm sorry. I have to close it. So then, when the object gives the subject partner fulfillment and the content and temperament, then that gives then the object partner then value. So then this object then has value to me. So the value determination so that's the definition of value. Determination of value is that is determined from the perspective of purpose. For example, you can have a knife or a paper or a house, then the value system and the union, then here, the knife, if we have a reciprocal relationship between the subject and object, the human being, and here the subject and object like this, and then there's a coming together with that determining value. So in the family, the filial child has value to the family. In the nation, the patriot has value to the nation. In the world, the saint has value to the world. And then sons and daughters of God have value in the cosmos. And then this is the way of the family that we talked about in the second verse of the family pledge in the beginning. So value, it's absolute, unique, eternal, and unchanging, and that's how it is determined. So determining the original creation value, so human subject, desire to seek value, and the object has a purpose of existence. The original creation of value of an individual entity, like this thing here, is determined by the reciprocal relationship between A, the purpose of the entity as an object according to the ideal of God's creation, and B, the desire of a human subject to pursue its original creation value when relating to entity. So I want something like this, and I want to drink from it. Is that what then determines its value? Hence, in order for an object to realize its original creation value, it must become one in a union with a human subject partner through give and receive action. So you see, as long as it's sitting on the shelf at Walmart, it doesn't really have value at that time, does it? It only has value when it's in a reciprocal relationship with someone who wants to use it, and when it's being used for the purpose of its creation. Then and only then does it have value. If no one buys it, then the Walmart probably eventually is going to toss it out onto the into a landfill, right? Because it has no value if no one buys it. But I went there and I saw it and I bought it because I figured, okay, I could use that. And now it has value, thereby establishing an original four-position foundation in which it becomes God's third object partner. Third object partner means here this is God's number one object partner, number two object partner, and third object partner here. So it becomes God's third object partner. Yeah. So that is how original creation value is determined. And the standard for original creation value, since the center of the four-position foundation is God, who is absolute, God himself sets the standard of its value. Since God is absolute and the original creation value of an object is determined in relation to God, the original creation value of that object is also absolute. The standard of value is absolute, unique, eternal, and unchanging. And human beings, don't determine that value. And here, a number of names that you don't recognize, but these are from Korean history. There was a dynasty called the Koryo dynasty, and Chung Mongju was someone who was a patriot to that Koryo dynasty. But then the Choson dynasty came along and overthrew the Koryo dynasty, and all of a sudden this man, he was a great patriot in the previous regime, but now in the new regime he became a traitor and he was executed as a traitor. And Lee Sun-shin, today Koreans regard Lee Sun-shin as a patriot. Why? Because he fought the Japanese Navy in the 16th century and sank a lot of ships, of the Japanese ships. And so even today in the center of Seoul, there's a big, huge statue of Lee Sun-shin because he defeated the Japanese. But to the Japanese, he's an enemy. And Ito Hirobumi, I give the example. When I was in Japanese elementary school, I always thought that Ito Hirobumi was kind of like the George Washington of Japan. He was the first prime minister. He was one of the people who wrote the first constitution of Japan as it was modernizing after it opened up in the mid-19th century. But then when I got to Korea, very different, because he was the first governor general of Korea after Japan colonized Korea. So he's very hated in Korea. And actually he was eventually assassinated by a Korean patriot. And I think when I was learning Japanese history in elementary school, I remember studying that Ito Hirobumi was eventually assassinated by a Korean terrorist. Yes, but then a very different situation. So the point here is that and even we could give American examples, right? George Washington is a great patriot in America, not so much in England, right? What's his name? Benedict Arnold was a traitor in America, but actually I think there's a statue of him somewhere in England, or maybe a few, because he's considered to be a good guy in England. So it depends. If you're just a patriot, then you are not recognized by the world, and so that's the difference between a patriot and a saint. A saint is someone who is recognized as good by the entire world. And so the standard of value then, these people do not meet that standard of value because their value is determined by which side of this conflict that they are on. And so the point here is that the standard of original creation value can only be determined by God, the true parent. So God is not going to love any of these people because they are only recognized by certain groups in a certain side of a conflict and not the other. But God doesn't take sides like that. Oops. Okay. The value of a human being in the original creation, he has divine value, eternal value, unique and irreplaceable value, and cosmic value. That's why, another reason why abortion is wrong, because when a baby is aborted, there's no replacement for that baby. Eternally, there's no way to replace that baby because each creation is unique. and it's very tragic for God. Yeah. Emotion, intellect, will, and beauty, truth, goodness, and the original creation. So God related to human beings, and we have mind and body, intellect. So intellect, and so through we had the Shimjong already, right? So relating through intellect, and then seeking intellect, mind, and the seeking the truth. That's the external aspect of the seeking intellect, the intellect seeking truth. And when God relates to emotion, is seeking beauty, and the will seeking goodness. The human mind has three faculties: intellect, emotion, and will. The human body is substantially sensitive to the human mind, that is, to human intellect, emotion, and will. And as such, the actions of the body manifest as the pursuit of the values of truth, beauty, and goodness in the ideal of God's creation. So love and beauty, good and evil, righteousness and unrighteousness. Love and beauty, so God as a subject and object, and God having union there, and from the subject, love flows to the object. And these are types of love: parental love, conjugal love, and filial love. And then the object then returns beauty to the subject partner. And the types of beauty, there's loyalty, filial piety, fidelity. These are all considered as forms of beauty that is returned to the subject partner by the object partner. When two entities have been divided as substantial manifestations of God's dual characteristics, they will seek to establish a four-position foundation by forming a common base and engaging in give and receive action. They will do this in order to come together as a unified body, a third object to God. This is the third object partner. In this process, the emotional force that subject gives to the object is what we call love. And the emotional force that the object gives to the subject is what we call beauty. The force of love is an active force. The response of beauty is a passive force. So here, love, when they coming together as a unified body, they give love and beauty to each other. And then good and evil, and any action or result of an action is good when a subject partner and an object partner fulfill the purpose of God's creation by A, giving and receiving love and beauty, to B, form a unified body, and C, become a third object to God as a result, thereby D, establishing a four-position foundation. So that is a good, something that is good, action. An action or result of an action is evil when a subject and object fulfill Satan's evil purpose by forming a four-position foundation centering on Satan. So good and evil are not relative, and you just can't decide on your own what is good and what is evil. It has to fulfill the purpose of God's creation. Any action or result of an action has to fulfill God's creation by giving and receiving love and beauty, forming a unified body, becoming a third object to God as a result, and thereby establishing a four-position foundation like this. Then we have goodness. Whereas here, if it's centered on Satan, then we have evil. And righteousness or unrighteousness, in the process of accomplishing the purpose of goodness, the elements of daily life that are directed toward that goodness are what we call righteousness. In the process of fulfilling Satan's purpose, the elements of daily life that are directed toward that evil are what we call unrighteousness. In the creation process for God's creation and the growing period of created beings, and the Bible says in Genesis 1 through 31, that's chapter 1, verse 1 through 31, that we have these different stages of creation. It says, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And in the 3, in the beginning anyway, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said in verse 3, let there be light. And there was a light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Okay? And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And notice that the day goes from the evening into the morning. Normally you would think that it would go from the morning to the evening, but here. And science says that there was a time when there was a non-liquid era or gas, that is, the earth was filled with gas, and they call it the Azoic era. And then here, and God said, now we're in day 2 now, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which are above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So firmament, waters above and below, liquid area, Azoic area. But also here, God is creating the spirit world here. Right? He's creating the spirit world first, and he called it heaven. He called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And in day 3, God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called the seas. He called seas. And God saw that it was good. Okay? So then the ocean and land and God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass and herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind, and God saw that it was good. Okay, so that was the third day then, Proterozoic era. And then in day 4, and says in day 4 God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament and the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament and the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven and give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the 4th day. And this is being written from the point of view of an angel, looking up from the earth, and not from the point of view of God. And then going to the 5th day, God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven." And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth." And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. Yeah. Right? And then day 6, and God said, "Let earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind." And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female created him. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat." And it was so. And God saw everything he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day. So that's the end of chapter 1. And basically, so far, so good, right? So far, so good at the end of Genesis chapter 1. Everything's going great, and God sees that it is not just good, but very good at the end of chapter 1. So biblical revelation is that there are 6 days or periods of creation. And I know that some people talk about, short, long. Some people like to say that it actually was 6 days. Father generally spoke about it being 6 periods. And he did not specify how long each period was, but it refers to 6 stages in any case in the process of creation. And 2 Peter 3:8 does say that 1,000 years is like a day, and a day like 1,000 years. So these, it's not necessarily a 24-hour period. And I think most people do go with the idea that it was more than just 6 days. But if some people want to say that it was just 6 days, I don't think Father would have a problem with that. He would probably say, okay, well, pray about it. He would not necessarily tell you that you were wrong. For one thing, he knows that when people get the spirit water, we're going to find out anyway. So not much purpose in arguing about that kind of thing here. Because we're trying to create unity. Here's 2 Peter 3:8. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. All right. Okay, then here, then this is the stages by which the creation was brought about, and the growing period for created beings. On this, we don't have a lot of time, but we'll have to finish this anyway. And the process of creation, in the human fall could not take place after completion. The evidence for the existence of a growing period. So this is the process of creation. So even God did not create everything with just one fell swoop. Boom, everything immediately came about. And even if you take the Big Bang Theory, still there was a process of expansion, right? And things came about over time. So God created things over 6 stages or days. And that's one evidence for the existence of a growing period. And things did not just suddenly come about. And the human fall could not have taken place after completion. That's another reason for believing that there was a growing period. And God's assignment of a human portion of responsibility means that people were incomplete. And the biblical scripture, Genesis 1:5, also, what is 1:5? That would be, in the second day? No, in the first day? I'm not sure. No, 1:5, you got me there. One 5 is where he says, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. So things went from the evening and into the morning. So that was the evening to the morning was a period of maturation, of growing. So things did not just suddenly appear, but God created them in an immature state and allowed them to grow. So here, Genesis 1:5, the evening and then the morning, going from immaturity into maturity. And so the growing period in human portion of responsibility, the growing period then has 3 stages. We call it as formation, growth, and completion stages. And everything except human beings, and also the human physical body, goes through these 3 stages according to God's principle. Right? You plant a seed and it grows. And you give it enough sunlight and air and water and nutrition, and it's going to grow according to whatever DNA information it has in that seed. And make sure that the soil is good, it's not growing on rocks or anything like that. So basically things grow according to God's principle. But human beings are different. Human beings are different. Because human beings, our physical body grows that way. A physical body is going to grow as long as there is food, water, air, sunlight, and reasonable shelter and things like this, and able to keep healthy. But the character, though, is different. Our spirit self is different. Our spirit self has to grow through our portion of responsibility, and we'll talk more about how that exactly happens a little bit later. So here, this period here is called the indirect dominion, because things are growing by the force of the principle in the realm of governance of principled results. But then when we go into the direct dominion, we're able to be in God's governance of true love. So then completed human beings, because we grow through our own portion of responsibility, we have this reciprocal relationship with God, directly with God, and then also with the creation of God. And then so the principle is autonomy and governance. That means so that all things there grow through the principle, plus the human portion of responsibility leads to the creation of character. But then the complete or 100% completion of God's will depends on God's responsibility and human responsibility coming together. God's responsibility is much greater, and just as a figurative way, we say that this is 95% and 5%. So sometimes Father in his speeches will refer to a human, you're 5% or something like that. That means the human portion of responsibility. But because we have a portion of responsibility, we can be qualified. We are qualified to be God's children, and we are qualified to govern creation. And because we have that portion of responsibility, we have created ourselves. We participated in our creation, not our entire selves, but at least we participate even in a small way in our own creation. So we can be qualified as the second creator. And we're participating in the process of creation. And that is a special grace that is given only to human beings and to no other creature in God's creation. All right, let's stop there today, and let me pray and then before we leave. Thank you, Heavenly Father. We thank you for the time that we've had today to be with you and to hear in the Sanctuary Church and to study your word. Father, we pray that we can understand the words that you have given us, even though we are studying these in English. And we know, Father, that you would like for us to study them directly in Korean. And we pray that that day will come when people will be desperate to relate to Father's word directly in Korean, and will have that strong motivation to learn his language so that they can speak the language of their true parent. Father, we thank you for all the brothers and sisters who participated today online as well, and for all those who participate later through the uploaded videos. We pray that your blessings will be upon all of them, that you will guide and protect them as they seek to come into a fuller relationship with you. Father, we especially pray for those who are far from you, that they will hear your voice speaking to them in their hearts. We thank you now for this report in the name of Timothy Oronino, Sukkah Blessed Center Family. Aja. Okay. All right, thank you very much. I think tomorrow we'll be able to finish up